because when you think about all of the panelists here today, as well as our listeners, they probably represent all sorts of payment service providers, as well as other types of providers that are serving the industry as a whole. And so the approach does differ, depends on how we look to implement this. From an Allica bank perspective, given we are a bank, we've got the access already today. We've implemented SCA, we've implemented all of the requirements from a PSD2 perspective, so we're fine. Obviously, a bit too early to say how this is going to impact the UK in terms of how we would expand. But one of the the considerations that I would have for any organization that is looking to implement this and think about how this might impact them is to think about their expansion strategy. So if they are looking at expanding to anywhere in Europe or beyond, how is open banking being implemented within those jurisdictions? Especially if you think about Europe, and when we've talked about there being potentially easier access to the payment schemes, that then might change the approach that you might take as a bank looking to expand internationally. So you may not want to go for a full banking license. You may just want to go ahead as an EMI. And then, of course, there might be other additional safeguarding requirements that Anu had mentioned in the beginning, and liquidity requirements that you need to be aware of. But it will impact how you think about your expansion strategy. The product person in me will always say, think about your customers, the impact and the opportunities this could bring to your customers. So for Allica Bank, given we service the SME, the established SME segment in the UK, which we believe is very, very underserved by the incumbents at the moment, we think about essentially sharing of data. So from the data aspect, given this is beyond just open banking, this is now looking at open finance as the infrastructure. And if things like pensions, etc., may not be as applicable, things like integration with accountancy softwares, payroll integrations, ERP systems, that's really, really key, right? It really makes life easier for our customer base. And that's what we're looking to do as Allica as well. Then could there be an angle, and I know we don't want to mention the B word, but could there be an angle in the future beyond just PSD3 as well, where we think about a future where it could be, COP for all cross-border transactions, a COP being confirmation of pay, and account checking for all cross-border transactions, or even between just the UK and Europe. I think that would substantially help make life easier for our customers, would also make trade easier, and would just bring a lot of benefits to our customers as well in terms of fraud. And then finally wanted to touch on, I think we've mentioned before, the data sharing side and the security side of that. So the permissions dashboard, really make it easier from an implementation perspective to have that in the hands of the customer, as opposed to, the banks owning it in the back end and the customer not knowing where the data is going and how they can essentially own that, take away the authorization when they want to take that authorization away. So really look at it both from the lens of how you would implement it internally, but then also how you could potentially benefit your customers from the implementation of PSD3.